Okay. I guess help me. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I guess we'll start with the roll call.
Mr. Bant, Ms. Hayden, Ms. Headland,
Here.
Mr. Lewis is excused, Ms. Metkovsky, Ms. Ross is excused, Ms. Salmon,
Here.
and Ms. Winkelmeis. And we do have a quorum.
Okay. Any changes to the agenda? Okay, I'd like to make one myself. Add as D to the communications section, choosing a new vice chair. So, do we have?
I think next we'll go to approval of the minutes for
Okay.
previous meeting.
Okay. Can I have a motion for approval of minutes of the previous meeting?
Second.
Okay. Any public input?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Then we'll move along to communications. And I guess the first one is a presentation by Casey Dearlum.
Yes, we have Casey Durlam, a 2009 Urbana Arts grantee, to present on her project, and you'll find her final report in your packet.
Okay. Hi. So
Hi.
my name is Casey Dearlum. I am currently a doctoral student at U of I in piano performance, and I've been for the past year also a visiting professor at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, also working as a piano instructor and a collaborative pianist for students. So my primary interest as a pianist is in contemporary music, which was why I decided to do this project, because I was involved with New Music Ensemble, which is directed by Steve Taylor on campus, and I was playing a lot of music by the faculty in the theory and composition department. And when I saw the posting for this grant, I thought this would be a great way to expose more music that people don't often play on the concerts, because we have to play Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and all the things that we're required to play to get our degree. So it's really difficult to find opportunities to perform new music that's written either locally or just written by people who are still alive and can help in putting the music together and getting a good performance, hopefully. So when I saw the flyer for this grant, my idea was to take students and faculty at the university and find some people in the community who are actively composing and put them on the same concert, which I think was successful. I think it was really nice for the community members because their music isn't often programmed on like a New Music Ensemble concert. We might frequently put a piece by Steve Taylor or Philip Bluma or various people on the faculty who have good reputations, but they're not seeking out local people. So that was my hope in doing this project, was to kind of bring people together, and especially for the students, they did not know who the people in the community were that were composing. So the faculty members that I worked with were Steve Taylor, Reynold Tharp, and Philip Bluma, and the students I worked with were Jae-eun Jung and Juri Seo and Vin Caliano. And the people from the community, maybe you guys might know them, are Susan Prenti and Mark Enslin and Philip Schussler, who is a younger person who actually was not educated here but has moved into this area. So, that was where the idea came from doing this. And I think the biggest success was just in these composers meeting each other and hearing different kinds of music that other people were creating here in Champaign and Urbana. And the primary benefits, I mean, besides the fact that it gave people some exposure, it also, since I recorded the concerts, now everybody has recordings of these pieces that they can use in like other future things that they're applying for, or just to show off what they're composing. Also, just the fact that their music was performed. Some of these pieces, like I know that one of the pieces by Mark Enslin had been written a long time ago and had not been publicly performed. So I think he was really thrilled to have it on a concert. I think he was on the concert with Reynold Tharp and Vin Caliano, which was probably the most popular. That was the second concert. It was probably the most popular concert of the three, and he was just really excited to have the whole composition department and all the faculty come to hear his music as well. So I wanted to play some samples from each concert because I don't think that anybody from the committee was actually at any of the concerts. So I was just hoping to kind of demonstrate the type of music that I was playing. So from the first concert, a lot of these pieces are actually 9, 10, 11 minutes long, so I pretty much am limited to doing short pieces. But off the first concert, this is a movement from a piece by Steve Taylor. It's called Black Smoker, and it has some really interesting effects on the piano. So this is the score of this movement. I had to put some things on the strings inside the piano to create this sound. The Black Smoker is supposed to be underwater, so the sound is like things echoing underwater. So imagine you're a fish swimming through the water, and you'll kind of get the effect he was going for, I think. I kind of think of this as bubbles like floating to the surface of the water. Each one gets higher and higher. These are echoes in the water. Okay, so how do I stop this? It just went back to the beginning. start it over. Okay, and how do I make the volume louder? Because the next one is quieter. Okay, great. Okay, so that was off the first concert. And then the second concert, the piece I'm going to play, is called The Moth. This was by Mark Enslin, and it was for a singer and a cellist and me. Actually, my part is really quite simple in this one. And the cello is, it's a drone sound, but it's supposed to be like a moth to a flame. So the cello sound, it's a special effect. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a really high pitch with something. So it doesn't sound exactly like a cello, but the idea is that the moth is attracted to the flame. And then I'll try to make it louder so you can hear the words. But this is only about 2 minutes. It's not a harmonic. It's like a subtone of some sort. So I don't know much about strings. So I have the score. So that's the sound. That's the
A thing admirable maybe, ugly maybe, little eyes too, brave mingles with the dust. While the eyes of 1,000 storms don't affect me, bitter maybe, its legs were to its wants like me. It has wings like brown paper bag cutouts, thin, light. Never sparkled to America's best. Never knew a star, but seen them. Prefers burning artificial things similar to me. It can't compare to you. You were always the butterfly, antennae longer, a color tamer, not than rain I ran out into. I grabbed the thing, distorted nocturnia, and its powder makes me cruel.
And one of the things Mark told me with the cello part, the crescendos and the diminuendos represent the moth getting closer to the light and moving away from the light, but I'm not sure how much of that was audible. I have the volume all the way up, but it seems really quiet. So, no, if I like just playing it on a CD player, I mean, I can usually turn it up more, but it's, yeah, I don't know. And then the third piece is, or the third concert, the piece I picked to show is also too long, so I'm just going to jump around a little bit. And it's a piece for piano and electronics by a DMA student, Juri Seo. And this is actually I think this is a really great piece for a student composer. So I'm going to start it and play the first minute and a half, and then I'm going to skip to later in the piece. there's a middle section without any electronics, this part, which is mostly just me playing stuff. And then the electronics come back soon. This theme of the repeated note, it's constantly like this tension inducing. This is really quite loud with the piano and the electronics in the performance space. It's kind of creepy. The first time was on the tape, and then I on the piano. So, and it's like a quarter tone apart. Which is There's some electronic sounds for about 30 more seconds, but they're not, you can't really hear them on this. So, yeah, the repeated note, it sounds really simple, but I actually had to have a metronome in front of me on silent because I had to stay perfectly steady so that I would be with the electronic part because she didn't have it set up to play off of the piano. So I had to, it was quite difficult, even though it probably doesn't sound like it. So, yeah, so those are just some of the pieces. There were a lot of different things on these concerts and some larger ensemble pieces, but most of those are 9 or 10 minutes. But I think it was successful. I was happy with how the concerts turned out. I kind of had wished that I could get more people to attend the concerts. But I think that the composers were really happy. The performers had a lot of fun doing it, and it was a great opportunity for me to do what I'm passionate about, because even though I still love to play Bach and Beethoven, there's 5 million pianists out there playing Bach and Beethoven, and I just think that it's really important for composers. If you don't play their music, they can't know how to be better composers. They can't learn unless they hear what they're writing and see how does it come across in a performance space. So this is just something I've been passionate about since I started my master's degree here, and people started asking me to play music for them, and I realized how valuable it can be for the composers. So that's all.
Okay, well, thank you. Just for our viewers, can you say something about where these were held and also about how large the audiences were?
Yeah, the first concert was in July of 2010. It was in Smith Recital Hall, and I think there were about 60 people at that concert. And the second concert was in September, also in Smith Recital Hall. And that one probably had between 60 and 80. That one had the most people. And then the third concert was the third week of November, and it was in the Music Building Auditorium. Because I was doing this electronics piece, I needed to be in that space because they have it hooked up to do the sound for the electronics. And that concert, actually, there were maybe 20 or 25 people. It was a bad time of the semester for any students to come, and there weren't a lot of people that weren't affiliated with the composition department or friends of people in the composition department were the ones that came to the first two concerts, and it was just, a busy time of the semester. So that was a little disappointing, but...
Yeah, go ahead, John.
So are there other opportunities I mean, this seems to us, or seems to me, the perfect kind of project for us. It's Urbana artists, perhaps at the university, but in from the community, exposing them where they wouldn't normally be
Right,
exposed.
right.
It just seems like a perfect fit for the things that we're supposed to be doing. So is there any desire to do it again? Are you still here, or are you gone?
Yeah, I'm finished with my coursework, but I still have a lot of work to go to finish my doctorate. so.
Is there anything else like this at the university, or that would allow composers an opportunity to display their work?
Well, the new music ensemble will, every couple of concerts, they'll program a piece by a student or by a faculty member, but I haven't seen them in the past few years program something by somebody local. So that was why when I saw this, I thought, oh, this is great. I can do all three. I can bring everyone together. And Susan Parenti and Mark Enslin are pretty involved with the composition department, and they know the faculty really well, but the students didn't know who they were or their background, because with each concert I did program notes and bios for the composers, and they both went to school here and studied with Herbert Brun, who was the really big composer here for a long time before I came. I mean, they have big bios, and they've stayed in the area, and they're still working artistically, and I don't think the students knew who they were.
So it says that you were partially funded. Did you get money from other?
Yeah, I had a few small donations to try to help cover the costs of getting performers. Yeah.
So
because I had actually requested more money than what I got, because I was hoping to pay people more than what I paid them, but it ended up being a lot of performers for each concert, and it ended up being a bigger time commitment than even I was expecting, but it was worth it. I enjoyed it.
So do you see something like this happening again? Is it just
For
you?
me personally?
Well, I mean, is there anybody that said, oh, man, I'd like to do that next year or the year after? Is it just you've done this and now it'll die?
This is something I think of most of the pianists here. I have more of an interest in contemporary music than the other students here right now. I was really interested in trying to do something like this, make it a yearly thing, but I don't know how I would ever have the funding to do that or the time, because I still have to do several recitals with my Bach and Beethoven and Brahms and Liszt and all of that music, and this was such a huge time commitment. I don't know how I would finish my degree and do this on a yearly basis.
If you're in contact with people that seem to be interested, this would seem the kind of thing I think that would be a really nice thing for us to fund on a semi-regular basis. I can't speak for anybody, but it just seems like for somebody to put together that program that met all of our criteria, it would be a shame to see it just die.
And there's a number of faculty and students that I didn't work with, a ton of those, and I'm sure still more people even in the community that would love to have their music performed as well. So I would completely be interested, but it is definitely getting money and time and performers together to do it. So.
Well, fortunately, the University of Illinois School of Music has a long tradition of new music concerts from the very beginning of the program in the early 60s, and has continued, so they're very supportive, and you're not at least starting from square one.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any comments? Okay. Well, thanks again for your presentation.
Okay. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Next up, we'll have a presentation by Catherine Fitzgerald, the 2010 Urbana Arts grantee.
Hi, my name is Catherine Fitzgerald, and I'm the art director at Amara Yoga and Arts, which is right across the street in Lincoln Square, and I'm also an art educator. I teach art at Cunningham Children's Home. And the project I completed this year was the Mandala Project, and it was a community collaboration. And thank you for supporting the work. The public was invited to work together on painting mandalas on Saturday mornings during Market at the Square hours in the fall of 2010. And it went on for, I think, 4 Saturdays. And to get the word out, to get people interested and let them know that it was happening, we put flyers up all over and listed it in all the local calendars, and press releases were sent out, and it was posted on our website and on your website also. And this is a copy of the poster that was put up in the place. There was a few articles written. There was, I think, 2 in the News Gazette. There was 1 in the Buzz that came out. And then, for the first Saturday, what I did for the process was I traced out a bunch of mandalas on blank canvases, and we put them on tables all out in front of Amara Yoga and Arts during Market at the Square hours. So there were people that were walking by, and there were also people that came specifically to work on the project. I put out tons of brushes and paint and glitter and chalk for kids to use if they wanted to do sidewalk chalk, making mandalas on the sidewalk. And as in any project like this, you never know how many people are going to show up. And always at first I'd be like, oh, nobody's going to show up. But, within an hour or, an hour and a half, there was usually quite a few people that would be there painting. And as you can see, parents and kids would work together on paintings. All sorts of different people, different walks of life, different ages, artists, real, local artists which would work on these paintings, as well as people who have maybe never painted at all. And they maybe would be wandering by and see what was going on, and we would just say, hey, why don't you, stop and paint? And as the weekends went on, some people were regulars, like this man came back a couple of times. And people started to get to know each other, and they would start having conversations, and it became this real community event. And the paintings weren't, a lot of them, even completed in one Saturday, so they would be back out again, and maybe a new group of people would come back to work on the paintings, or the same people that were there the week before would kind of take ownership of paintings. So you see people working together, or sometimes 2 or 3 people would work on the same painting at the same time, and they maybe wouldn't even know each other. And they would start these conversations, and it was just like this really lovely process, And what came out of the process I thought was really amazing, considering it could have been anything. This is one of the paintings that was completed, and it was put up as an explanation about what it is. So over 60 people actually participated in the 4 weekends painting these mandalas. I also put out material so if people wanted to make their own mandala, they could. So they ranged in size from 2 feet by 2 feet to 5 feet by 5 feet. This particular one is about 5 feet by 5 feet, and it was mostly worked on by kids under the age of 8.
Wow.
And this one I think is more like 4 feet by 4 feet. This is a smaller one. It's about 2 feet by 2 feet. And I liked how they all had their own kind of different personality, the paintings, even though, they kind of all started just with simple line drawings. This is another smaller one. This one I think is 5 feet by 5 feet, and it's got lots of glitter on it. If you see it in real life, it's pretty spectacular. This is another one that's about 4 feet by 4 feet. And it's got a lot of gold and glitter on it. And here's another one. Mandalas are very traditional paintings that are found in cultures all around the world, and very ancient cultures. From Celtic spirals are based on mandalas, Indian mandala paintings, Aztec calendar paint. The mandala, the symbol itself, is found throughout history and throughout all the different cultures. And part of the reason why I chose it is because it's very simple in a certain way, although it's complex. It's patterns that repeat themselves. And when you're painting them, it's very meditative, sort of. You just sort of go into the zone and start painting. And also when you look at them, they're very meditative to look at and very calming. This one was made by 2 5-year-old girls. Here's another one. And so they're all like really different, but at the same time very similar, just like, you know, we all are in our community. And what's interesting to me also about them is that I don't think just one person would have made it. It was like the collaborative, you know, energy of all the people together working on these, and the way they evolved in the process that came about. Oh, this one was really interesting because this was an 8-year-old boy who made his own mandala, which I thought, you know, it was like, it's still a mandala, but it's not quite as symmetrical. It's not like, you know, the traditional mandala, but it's still amazingly beautiful. And the colors he chose are really wonderful. And then this one, somebody like put a cat in the middle of it, which I thought was really cute. This is another really large, I think this is like 5 feet by 5 feet, and it took probably 3 weekends for it to be completed. And it went through lots of different sort of variations, like people would change things, and it ended up, I thought, really beautiful. And so we had a show of all the finished paintings at Amara that was up for about 2 months, and the public was in, and the people who were involved in the project were all invited to come to see the finished work. And this is the list of the participants, that all the people who worked on the paintings. And at the reception, it was really kind of fun and interesting because a lot of people didn't totally remember which ones they worked on. They'd be like, I think I painted that part of that paint, you know. And there were like families that came and people who hadn't even worked on the project that showed up and looked to see them. And they were up for a while, and everybody loved them. I mean, they were just like really powerful and up and happy and energetic paintings. And right now they're actually in Lincoln Square. I don't know if you've been over there, but there's a hallway in Lincoln Square that's kind of catty corner from Cardinal Fitness, which I've started putting up these public art projects that I've worked on in that hallway. So if anybody wanted to actually go see them, they're up there right now. And I've been talking to, you know, Jim Webster and Wade Franklin about, you know, the idea of having Lincoln Square become more of a showcase for, you know, public art and art that's happening in the community. And they're very receptive to it. And it's just a matter of getting the word out and making it happen. But I think that it could be like this beautiful space to see art. And actually, I think I'm going to be showing some of them here, too, next month.
Great.
So.
Very good. Does anybody have any comments? Anyone? Sounds like it was a great. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So what are you going to do next? Got another project in mind?
I'm not sure yet. But I'll probably do something. I mean, I have tons of paint and paintbrushes, and I want to continue doing these projects, but I'm not quite sure exactly what it would be the next one to do. So, you know, I'm thinking, and it will come to me. Because I really think it's important to continue doing this. I think it's fun to be involved in it myself. It's just like a powerful thing to see these things being created, and it's so much fun for the people who come and make them together. So,
well, I've been sort of a proponent of trying to turn Lincoln Square into this sort of art center. And, you know, the way the market's going, there's this sort of, it seems like it's building to some point where perhaps we could have an arts market that would explode the way the food one does and tie into Lincoln Square.
Well, it would be perfect, I think. I mean, when you look at the people who are moving into Lincoln Square, we've got the art, the art coupe, Wind, Water, and Light. There's just, a lot of it is about, it's about wellness, wholeness, and art and being creative. So it makes sense that, you know, and also with your goal of, you know, Urbana being a city of the arts, I think it's the perfect space. If you go in there, it's got beautiful high ceilings and all this wall space. And
it would seem like a good opportunity for Health Alliance to, you know, involve themselves in the artistic endeavors of the community, especially in terms of wellness and all that sort of thing. It just seems like a perfect fit, perhaps with the new hotel renovation.
Right.
You know, well, thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, I think we'll now have the monthly progress report.
All right. As far as current projects go, the Urbana Arts Grants programs 2009 and 2010 projects are still being completed, as you saw today with our presentations. And all of the 2011 agreements have been signed and grant projects are beginning. In fact, I believe it was the first weekend of the month that the Asian Heritage Month had their festival at Lincoln Square Mall. So everything's getting underway. I should also mention that last night the Urbana Committee of the Whole motioned to approve our program plan for fiscal year 11-12 at their meeting next week. As far as Boneyard Creek Public Art, I'm excited to report that I just loaded the request for qualifications on our website this afternoon, and so I'll be emailing you that final copy, but some of you weighed in with comments on that. So I will also be publicizing that tomorrow. So exciting to get that out. The Downtown Royer Subcommittee met on April 26th to discuss Alderman Dennis Roberts' April presentation about Royer District signage. And we've been following through with getting estimates from Selvert Perkins on several signage options. So far, what we have received is that a directory sign is estimated at approximately $8,700. So we're still getting more information from Public Works about that, but there'll be more for that subcommittee to discuss in the future. As far as art at the market, staff is currently, I have scheduled all of the artists for the 6 workshops for this season, and the theme is non-traditional materials to encourage the public to engage with unexpected materials in artistic ways. And I am finalizing the schedule for that and getting descriptions from all the artists as far as what workshops they'll be doing, and I'll be releasing that sometime next week. As far as Art Now goes, May's new episode is an interview with sculptor and UIUC professor Tammy Rubin. As Catherine mentioned, she will be our next Artist of the Corridor starting in June, but Sherry Manricki's work will be on display through the end of the month. As far as fundraising goes, the fundraising subcommittee met on April 13th to discuss next steps for fundraising. And the subcommittee and city staff recommend setting up a Friends of the Arts group that would be led by a dynamic, experienced individual who is involved in the arts and has fundraising contacts, as well as identifying specific projects for fundraising. As far as marketing goes, I sent out a monthly email newsletter on April 19th to 288 subscribers. We have 350 Facebook fans and 45 Twitter followers. I attended a presentation of the UIUC graphic design class on strategic marketing, and overall, their suggestions didn't seem to be quite what we were looking for as far as it seems that our big need right now is updated print materials because we currently don't have those. So we'll be looking into the possibility of hiring a graphic designer to complete that. And if any of you would like to see the slides of the presentations that the students put together, I can email that to you. As far as grants, I have submitted a program grant for general operating support to the Illinois Arts Council for fiscal year 11-12, and we should hear about that in August 2011.
Excuse me, what would the grant money be used for then?
That grant money in that category is to really support all programs. So that's the same. We received that grant this year in the visual arts category. So really it's to support all of our programs. I'm excited to announce that we've been awarded a registration fee scholarship to attend the 2011 Americans for the Arts Convention in San Diego on June 16th through 18th. And I included the website there, so if any of you are looking at that and see any conferences you'd like me to, or sessions that you'd like me to attend, please let me know. Also, I'll be attending the 2011 One State Together in the Arts Conference in Bloomington Normal on May 23rd and 24th. As far as partnerships go, after consulting with Public Works, we're moving forward with the collaborative project with the Urbana Park District interns to identify potential sites for public art in parks in Urbana.
So, can I ask a question about
yeah,
that?
sure.
I've not heard of this. What What is that?
That project was brought to us by Tim Bartlett over at the UPD, and he has some interns this summer. And in the past, there had been a grant proposal that wanted to put some kind of art in the park, but that individual had not actually checked with the park to see if that would be all right. So the proposal was to have these interns go through the parks and just identify what might be potential sites for art, so that we would have sort of a database for future proposals, future Urbana sculpture project items, etc. And also the grant subcommittee will be meeting tomorrow. And our next month's meeting will be on June 14th at 4:30 p.m.
Okay, thanks for your report. Next thing we need to do is choose a vice chair, since I used to be vice chair and moved up. I know Mary Ann has expressed some interest in doing that. Is there anyone else who would want to be considered?
But if anyone else is excited to do it,
It's basically just filling in when I am not here, so. Well, in that case, shall we hold a vote, or, okay. All in favor of having Mary Ann become the vice chair?
Yes,
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. You're now vice chair. Okay. Next, we'll move on to old business, which would be discussion and approval of the Public Art League agreement,
So,
which we did discuss last time.
right. So last week, the Public Arts League gave their presentation, and they have updated their agreement as the Public Arts Commission requested. They added a provision that jury panels selecting artwork include a representative from the Public Arts Commission, and also City Public Works staff recommended in Section 4.3 that if the city no longer wishes to display artwork, that PAL would arrange for deinstallation within 30 days of notification. But with those changes, staff would recommend this agreement for approval.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote then?
If there's no discussion.
Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up? Go ahead, Jeff.
So I'm the guy that was the wet blanket last time, so I've been thinking about it a lot. And it wasn't that there were any particular problems with the agreement, as far as I could see. It was just that it seemed as though we were sort of handing over, we're giving a charge to this organization to put sculpture in Urbana. And then it occurred to me, well, and I had a question, and there's nobody from community development here that could really answer it, but I was wondering what would...
Well, I can try.
Well,
I am in community development.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking in terms of past practices and things. So what if somebody came, what if I came and said, I'd like to put a sculpture on the verge near my house? Is there a mechanism whereby somebody could do that without like a contract like this?
Are you speaking about like a right-of-way situation where it wasn't your property? It was
Where it would be the city property, like what they're proposing?
I think because it's city property, you would have to get some type of approval for that. I don't think you could just put it there.
So I just feel that that sort of signing a contract with the Public Art League, whose intent is to put sculpture around Champaign-Urbana, not other arts, gives over what we were supposed to do. And I know that it's better for staff time, it isn't a burden on and things like that. But if you took the same model and said, well, what if we had signed a contract with somebody to come and do development of roadways or fundraising for the university, where we would just contract with somebody, they would come in, raise the money, they would decide what to build, what to spend it on, and we would have the right to say no to it. It just has some problems for me in terms of what we were asked to do. And it just seems as though it's too easy. We'll have them do it, and then we won't have to do it. My concern is that it's equating sculpture with public art. A lot of people in the world think of public art as sculpture. period. And we're supposed to be encouraging all the arts, not just sculpture. It also means that they're going to be raising money in Urbana for sculpture in Urbana, theoretically. It's just another piece of the potential art support that's taken for a specific project. And I'm not against sculpture. I just feel like it's sort of giving up some of the overarching things that we were asked to try to do. My question is, do we really need an agreement? If any citizen or group could come and say, we want to put a sculpture up here on city right-of-way, and we want the city to put a pad in there and maintain it, would the city do that? Are they getting some special consideration that if they propose a sculpture, then the city will do the legwork and do the site preparation and maintain the thing, whereas if I, as a citizen, came and said, I want to put a sculpture out front of my house, it won't cost you anything, I'll just put it there, could you please prepare a site and maintain it for me? It seems that we're giving them a leg up that they really don't need. If there's a mechanism whereby they could say, we think we could place several sculptures in the city, and we have a mechanism that they could propose the sites and we could have them approved and the sculptures could go in there, then why do we need a special agreement? It privatizes the process in some sense. It takes it out of the public forum. Even though they're not a private or for-profit agency, they still represent a separate group of people with their own organization and their own rules and goals and whatnot. And Champaign, where they originated, Champaign doesn't have an arts commission. The Public Arts League is a sort of proxy for their Public Arts Commission. And though I don't like the idea of the separate cities, I'd like to see them united, it still seems as though this is a Champaign organization that's going to be putting sculpture in Urbana, even though we're going to have a member on the board and they're not going to treat us any different than Champaign. Most of their focus, and indeed their latest focus, is still on Champaign and their retention basin and all that sort of stuff. So I worry that we would lose the Urbana flavor of any sculpture program. Also, Champaign, the Park District's very involved. In Champaign, the Park District is the public arts facility. In Urbana, there is no art in the park. Urbana teaches no art classes. They've made an agreement with Champaign Park District that they won't teach art classes. Champaign has all of that. And it kind of bothers me a little bit that somehow the Urbana Park District isn't bothered with or isn't involved with this contract. I mean, I'd like to see them partner with us, with the Public Arts League, so that we don't feel like we're going out doing something that they perhaps aren't willing to do. I don't know. So those are my very vague concerns. They're nothing terrible or overshadowing. I worry just somehow that we're sort of giving up what we were supposed to do to an outside agency, which isn't covered by our ordinance, which asks us to approve all, displayed art, that we have the right to review relevant proposals for any works created. We're just going to see what they pick, and then we'll have the right to say no. But I think that's kind of an empty right. I can't see us ever saying no to something. It just seems like we're just giving up our responsibility and letting somebody else do it, and they're not even an Urbana-based group. Those are my very vague concerns. So I probably won't vote for it. I know everybody else is in support of it, but that's why I wouldn't probably vote to sign this contract.
Just one thing. I think that the reason that they are seen as more Champaign-based is because they are in agreement with the city of Champaign. So they haven't put any effort towards fundraising for Urbana sculpture or putting out a call for it because they have not had this agreement. So just to address...
Okay, I think you might be right, yeah.
Well, I also think that it is good for the cities to share, and they're offering to share with us. And I guess I don't see too much wrong with that. We do have the ability to say, no, we will have somebody on the jury, and we do, in fact, have our own program as well for sculpture. So I guess I don't feel quite as strongly about it. Does anybody else want to comment on that?
I would just add that the Park District collaboration that we have now to identify potential places in the parks for art seems to be something that could easily connect with the. I mean, it's
Yeah.
sort of like, now that this opportunity is here for us, let's go find some places. So that almost seems to me to be a logical step following in the process of identifying where we could put sculpture. We're sort of ready for it. And then if, just getting to the point of public art doesn't equal only public sculpture, which is a really valid point.
Yeah.
I would say that if we have, since that is one of the most expensive parts of our operation as a public arts commission, if somebody else were willing to come along and take some of that expense and provide some of the upkeep, which is the continuing expense in addition to the original expense, then that would allow us actually to spend more of our time supporting those kinds of arts that might be ephemeral, performance art or concerts, that kind of thing. Painting, architecture, you name it. I mean, other forms of art that aren't just sculpture that could be public art, more collaborative projects, right? So that, in fact, I think this would wind up helping us to put more of a stamp on what Urbana can do for the arts, because it frees us up from that huge commitment of funds, right? We can still do our own sculpture program, but we have more freedom now. If these people are willing to help, we have more freedom, I think, to pursue other forms of public art and to really support those more. So, I mean, there is the dangerous side that people would see more sculpture than anything else, but then we can take advantage of the time not spent on sculpture to spend it on other things. So I feel encouraged by that. And I would say if private citizens have ideas about sculpture that they want to donate, I think that the Public Arts League isn't intending to privilege their choices over other donors' choices from the city of Urbana. I think it's more that they've set up some sort of a system where each time something gets installed, there doesn't have to be a separate set of negotiations about how that platform happens. I mean, I think some of the benefit of this is there's a system by which anybody could come along and donate a sculpture, and we could probably reach out to the Public Art League at that point and say, could we use your system for paving the way, so to speak, or paving the platform and paving the process for us. So I see that as a potential advantage too. And well, I think that some of these concerns about letting go of control that we have over our choices are important to consider. I think that the Public Arts League came to us in a spirit of collaboration. And when you sign any kind of a contract, there's what's on paper, but then there's also a sense of the people you're collaborating and do you ultimately trust that the way you think you interpret the contract is the way they think they interpret the contract. And I had a pretty positive sense of their spirit to collaborate, and I think that they gave us evidence of that by instantly changing the contract in every way that we asked, to show us that yes, in fact, we do mean to collaborate. So I'm willing to believe that as we discover any drawbacks to this collaboration, we could talk to them about it.
Right.
I don't think that
Well,
they
and
would be
ultimately we-
unwilling to
yeah.
alter things that we have signed if it were to benefit us
Right.
and the arts in our community.
And ultimately, if we didn't like it, we could at any point say
That's
we
true.
no longer want to be part of this. I mean, I think it's best to see how it's going to develop.
Yeah, that was my question. What is the final length of time, the term on this agreement?
Well,
The length of time is still 6 years, and that
6
was
years.
so that it was 2 cycles
Mhm.
of their timeline for getting submissions and putting them up. But I think in the agreement that we can end it at any time.
yes,
Okay.
So
right.
it's not irrevocable. We can end it.
Right.
And then also we can end any particular piece within a month if we don't like that particular installation, right? In addition,
I believe so, yeah.
I think that's what I read.
I've got it here.
So I totally agree.
4.3, sorry.
I'm not a strong advocate of my position here. Just so often we just sort of do these things, and there's something about it that disturbs me, and I can't put my finger on it. So I don't want to make a big deal about it. But thanks for listening.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I want to say again that I think it's important, especially to consider these concerns that Jeff has brought to us, because in any situation, there's a slippery slope when you cede control. And so I think that's something that we just want to be conscious of watching as this proceeds, to be sure that we continue to feel comfortable with the collaborative spirit that we think they're bringing, and that, it's making us ask them to alter the contract. And I think as long as that collaborative spirit continues to have this promise of a truly collaborative effort where both sides are trying to promote the arts, then it's a win-win. And when it begins, if it ever does, to not feel right, or to feel like we're being pushed around in any way, or that the sides don't have the same goal anymore, well, then it's time to reconsider. But I think it looks safe enough as an experiment to give it a shot, but to be wise and careful about things that could potentially go wrong.
Well, I could see your concern about, because they don't have a long track record either. There's no long history.
Well, what? And I honestly, because I'll probably not be here, but theoretically, Champaign, the Public Arts League would be the Public Arts League for Champaign. They are sort of de facto right now, and they could be for Urbana too. So we would be, not that we would get obliterated, but it just seems like they could become the Public Arts League for Champaign-Urbana, and it's sculpture. If you look at the charge, it's everything, and sculpture is so often in the literature and everything, it's just, public art, yeah, it's sculpture. It's a slippery slope. That's what I'm worried about. I just wanted to say it. I didn't want to,
Sure.
Not say anything. So.
Okay. Well, I guess we will take a vote now. All those who are in favor of approving the Public Art League agreement, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we got one opposed.
I can understand
Do we have any announcements? Anyone here have announcements? Okay. In that case, would someone like to motion to adjourn? Would someone like to second that? Second. Okay. That's it?